So it is Wednesday night, having meatballs. With meatballs, I'm becoming very predictive at this time, but I'm having a Sangiovese. But it is not a Chianti Classico, which I normally would do during the week. I have no midweek wine. I'm gonna probably make a list and go to Princeton Corkscrew. They, a purveyor out in Princeton that has a lot of, eccentric's the wrong word, but smaller producers or brands you haven't really seen before. But most everything I've got from there has been really good overall, and the price ranges are across the board. So it's not like a wine shop that's just got expensive boutique wines. It's got everything, but not your standard stuff. So with that said, I think I'm gonna try to get over there this weekend and buy some midweek reds, maybe a few whites. So this is Castello Banfi Brunello Montalcino 2016. So what I consider Sangiovese on steroids. And the vaunted 2016 vintage, best vintage out of Tuscany in how many years. And I know I talk about don't worry about vintages, and I do stand by that. Scores, I mean, scores. I do believe in vintage scores to a degree, but I believe the good vintages typically are ones that the wines come out a little bit more bold, and I think some of the critics will rave more about those, where I think some cooler vintages actually show more sense of place, terroir, and acidity, which allows some of these wines to pair better with food and in the long haul. Now, these wines typically have amazing, as I said, now I just opened this maybe 45 minutes ago. Still a very, very young Brunello, even though it was a 16, but they really don't hit the market for 5 years. I think it came out 2 years ago. I think I got a pretty good price on this. And ironically, this is the first Brunello winery I had, and it was a long time ago. I'd have to look at my Vivino and see even if I was using Vivino or if I even tracked it in some other means and then ported it over to Vivino. But I remember the first Brunello I'd ever had was Banfi. And I remember it being a little underwhelming at the time. I was in my, I don't know, mid-20s, early 20s. I hadn't quite gained the palate expertise, and I was still kind of into bigger, unctuous wines. Not that I'm not into those still, but I've certainly shifted away from some of that, where I'm embracing everything, and this being, what I consider one of the great food wines, really. Pairing Italian dishes with sauce, pork, lamb. This could go with a lot of different dishes. Just a cheese board. So it's extremely aromatic. Sweet basil and black cherry. Cedar leather. There's a little of that in here. When I get black cherry and I get that sweet basil smell, I always believe in some dried herbs. Some dried herbs, sort of like marjoram, maybe thyme, not thyme. Marjoram, and there's another one I'm just blanking on right this moment. Tarragon, a little bit of tarragon, dried tarragon. I'm not getting any fennel, which sometimes I do. It might just need to, maybe tomorrow, maybe later when it decants. Sometimes I get fennel out of these. But extremely aromatic. Oftentimes this gets confused in blind tastings, not that I do that many blind tastings, with Nebbiolo, which is typically from Piedmont. This is more central Italy, that's more north Italy. I don't know what I would do in a blind tasting. I believe the tannins on a classic Barolo Barbaresco are so tight and so taut that I would guess Barolo Barbaresco. But the color, this has more of a browning. I don't know. I'd have to see both in glass, see if I confuse them or not. Oftentimes confused, but either way, one of the great grapes of the world, in my opinion. Brunello's being one of the great wines of the world, in a great vintage, even better. Even in a non-great vintage, I think the last 10 years in Brunello have been great. In Tuscany have been great. This really smells great. So let's see. Acidity's there. It's always there. Makes your mouth water. And yeah, the tannin's there, but it's not as intense as Brunello Barbresco tannin. Length is long. You know, medium-bodied wine. This is a medium-bodied, elegant, delicious wine with those dried herbs. I mean, pretty much tastes like the aromas. There's a little bit, there's more of a leathery, saddle leather component when on the palate. Maybe a little tobacco too, for sure. You know, still very young. This could go far longer. It's terrific. 4.5 out of 5. And I only rate things in that quick style to just remember, you know, would I buy this? And I would absolutely buy this thing. And I think I even have another one somewhere. But this is really what I was shooting for midweek. I'm not complaining, but I typically would open up a Chianti Classico Reserve, a Chianti Classico, or maybe just a Sangiovese in general to have with my meatballs. I pretty much always do that pairing. I think it's an amazing pairing. I did not put fennel on my meatballs today, but typically I do. No fennel out of this one yet, and I'm hoping maybe that comes out. I love when a wine has fennel come out, or, you know, licorice. I hate black licorice, but I love it when it comes out in wine. So I like when lavender is some of my favorite flavors: lavender, black licorice, fennel. I mean, I love when these come out of the aroma and on the palate. I think they're just really cool when they come out that way. It's pretty awesome. I think that one of my least favorite things is something being overly floral, like Gewürztraminer just comes across to me so floral, like just sticking your face in a bouquet of fake flowers, not a subtle aroma of flowers, but a very intense, maybe a little bit artificial. It's kind of how I look at Gewürztraminer. It's a terrible way of, and I don't even want Gewürz came to my mind, but that's one of the more aromatic floral wines that I'm grimacing just thinking about it. It's not my favorite. Yeah, this is only going to evolve over the course of the evening and by definitely tomorrow. I think I'm going to decant it longer tomorrow. Been listening to some wine podcasts and just writing down different wines. Commando G, just random winery out of Spain. And apparently they make some amazing, if not some of the best, they call it Garnacha, but Grenache wines in the world. And sure enough, their prices are indicative of that. Very expensive. Their entry level's 30, 40, but then they go up into the hundreds and 300-400, I think. Very expensive. Curiosity's peaked because I just found out about it. There's a South African Kamusha, not expensive. South African wines are typically not expensive. If I find any, I think a Montivino up in Montclair, New Jersey has some, and Morristown, New Jersey have some. So maybe I'll try some whites. The Chenin, I always am looking for a new Chenin Blanc. Chenin Blanc being absolutely one of my favorite white wine grapes. I just ordered a Chenin Blanc today, actually from Nicolas Joly in Sauvignier. Not his Clos de Syrah, but one of his lower ones. But it just doesn't have a lot of age on it. While I have the patience to wait, I might not. Just love Chenin and Nicolas Joly's wines out of the Sauvignier region of the Loire. Just amazing. I am all over the place tonight for sure. So, but yeah, just been thinking about a lot of different wines I want to try this year, and I'm making a short, some lists and concatenating it all into a digital format just on my phone, into some notes, and buy one here, buy one there. There's a wine from Matthiasson. It's called the Ancient Series, I think. He's only got 2, I think. Well, one he's made in a Retsina style, an old Greek style, where there's some resin, pine resin introduced. And it was said that to preserve the barrels, they would pour pine resin over them in ancient Greece, or maybe the amphora. And some of that would leach into the wine, and it became this style. And it's a very unique style, and it goes great with Greek appetizers. That's typically what you would pair it with, but it's typically maligned. I like it. I think the cheap ones are cheap. I think I've had a few good ones, and there's just a hint of the pine in it, and I think that's really nice. The resin, the pine resin, those are very pleasant. And I think I could have that with a meal too, not just sort of like an plate of Greek appetizers or something. So, well, I think it's time to enjoy the meatballs, and we'll see how this wine evolves over the night. I do have some wine coming from J.J. Buckley. Unfortunately, I think 5 of them are the same wine, but so be it. I think a lot of those might be some of my midweek wines, I think, based on the price. We'll see. I know it's a Bordeaux, so it won't be a super surprise unboxing, but maybe some of the other wines will, as I don't remember all the other ones. And I'm not doing my Carlisle. I get the spring allocation. There's some Petite Syrah on there, but I'm kind of taking a break from Zinfandel, and that's just that. If the Alicante Boucher shows back up and I'm still able to order from Carlisle, I'll definitely order some of those. I may order 2 of the Petites. They have a Gruner Veltliner. But if I want a really good Gruner, I should probably be going to Austria, not really California, although theirs is pretty good. We shall see. It's a new year. See what we explore, what I get into, see what the best I should do. I'm going to do a video on the top 100 of Wine Spectator. I'm going to look through the list, highlight it, and then just go over it in a video. As sort of a reminder to myself, like, how many of these have I had? How many do I believe are really worth being in that top 100 and undervalue, overvalue maybe, and then maybe just go through the top 10 from what I know about them. I'm not going to do any research. I'm absolutely going to ad-lib on it and just go off the cuff. I should be getting Wine Enthusiast and Decanter magazine this year, so that'll be interesting. Could find some more great articles or learn about some other wines in those 2 periodicals. So that'll be something different this year. And I was going to say something else until I forgot. So, with that, have a good night.